Locked behind the towering walls of the world's most secure prison, these men remain a force to be reckoned with. They command respect through fear, maintain control from the shadows, and their reach extends far beyond the confines of their cells. Each name carries a history of ruthless ambition, unflinching violence, and a loyalty that knows no limits. The stories of these individuals are as chilling as they are unforgettable. But who are they? What makes these 5 men the most dangerous in a place designed to contain the worst of humanity? Stay with us as we unveil the faces, the actions, and the legacies of those who defied every boundary inside ADX Florence. Nuestra Familia, an organization forged in the unforgiving conditions of California's prison system. What began as a bond of loyalty and protection among northern Hispanic inmates grew into one of the most feared and ruthless criminal enterprises in the country. Over decades, they've built an empire that stretches far beyond the steel bars meant to confine them. This is not just a gang. This is a network of influence, power, and control that thrives in the darkest corners of both prison yards and city streets. Today, we uncover the stories of 5 individuals who rose to the very top of this dangerous hierarchy. These men have shaped the legacy of Nuestra Familia through actions so brutal, so calculated, they are etched into history. Their power extends into the highest security prison in the world, the ADX Florence, a place designed to contain the uncontrollable, where even the walls seem to whisper of danger. Each of these men represents a chapter in a larger story of betrayal, loyalty, and unrelenting violence. Their names alone command both fear and respect, even in a world where survival is everything. Through cunning strategies, relentless ambition, and acts of ruthless violence, they carved their place as the most dangerous figures in Nuestra Familia's history. Their actions were not mere crimes, they were statements. Statements that echoed across prison yards and city streets alike. But who are these men? What drove them to rise through the ranks of an organization where only the most ruthless survive? And how have they managed to maintain their grip on power, even from behind the unyielding walls of ADX Florence? Their stories are as unforgettable as they are chilling, and as we peel back the layers, one name at a time, you'll begin to understand the true weight of their legacies. In the 1960s, within the walls of California's prison system, an idea was born, a movement fueled by the need for protection, unity, and strength among northern Hispanic inmates. This idea would grow into an organization that would dominate not only the prison yards, but extend its reach into the streets and communities outside. It was called Nuestra Familia, meaning our family, and for those who became a part of it, it truly was a family, a bond forged in loyalty and solidified through blood. The early years were defined by survival. For inmates, life behind bars was brutal and unforgiving, with constant threats of violence and exploitation. Nuestra Familia rose as a shield, a means of standing together against those who sought to harm them. But it didn't stop there. What began as a network of protection evolved into a highly organized, strategic, and deeply influential entity. It became a power structure that not only governed the lives of its members, but controlled the flow of drugs, money, and violence within the prison system and beyond. The gang's purpose was clear: to defend and empower northern Hispanic inmates. This mission gave them an identity, a cause, and a relentless drive to dominate. Their reach extended far beyond individual survival. They sought to establish control, ensuring that no rival gang could challenge their authority. This brought them into direct conflict with their most notorious enemy, the Mexican Mafia, known as La M. This rivalry would define much of Nuestra Familia's history, igniting a war that spilled over from prison cells to city streets, leaving a trail of violence in its wake. But what sets Nuestra Familia apart from so many others is its structure. This is not a loose group of individuals acting on impulse. It is a tightly knit organization with a chain of command, codes of conduct, and strict rules that govern its members. Orders flow from the top down, and loyalty is not just expected, it is demanded. Defiance is met with swift and often lethal consequences, ensuring that the leadership's power remains absolute. Over time, Nuestra Familia has become more than a gang. It is a system. Its leaders are strategic thinkers, capable of exerting control even from the isolation of solitary confinement. They coordinate activities across multiple states, influencing both criminal operations and the lives of those within their ranks. Their power is felt in every corner where their influence reaches. But the true strength of Nuestra Familia lies not in its numbers, its codes, or its history. It lies in the men who lead it. Those who have risen to the top of this organization have done so through unwavering loyalty, intelligence, and a willingness to make decisions others would not. Their names command respect and fear even among their enemies. And today, we delve into the lives of 5 such men. Leaders who ruled with an iron fist and left behind legacies that will never be forgotten. These are the faces of Nuestra Familia's most dangerous figures, and their stories begin now. We'll start with Daniel Stork. Perez began his journey within Nuestra Familia as one of many, a name among countless others vying for survival and recognition within the harsh and unforgiving prison system. In the world of organized crime, loyalty is not a virtue but a necessity. For Perez, it wasn't just about following orders. It was about doing so with an intensity and precision that made him stand out from the crowd. To him, hesitation was a weakness, and weakness was a death sentence. Early in his time with Nuestra Familia, Perez gained a reputation for being dependable in ways that others were not. When given a task, no matter how daunting or brutal, he carried it out without flinching, whether it was delivering a message through violence or ensuring that debts were paid in full. His actions were swift, decisive, and unrelenting. Echeblabo, this steadfast dedication earned him the trust of those above him. Men who saw in Perez not just a follower, but a soldier who would stop at nothing to uphold the gang's power and authority. But his loyalty and determination were put to the ultimate test in 2008. A critical moment in Perez's life came when he was entrusted with an order that would shape his future within the gang. The mission was clear, the stakes were high, and failure was not an option. Inside the prison walls, where alliances shift as quickly as tempers flare, Perez was tasked with eliminating a target, an individual who posed a threat to the gang's structure and influence. The reasons behind the order were known only to the higher-ups, but for Perez, the reasons didn't matter. What mattered was the execution of the task, and that he did with chilling precision. The details of that fateful event remain a testament to how Perez operated. With methodical focus, he carried out the order, ensuring that the message sent was one that would not be misunderstood. This wasn't just an act of violence. It was a declaration. It was a stark reminder to anyone watching that Nuestra Familia demanded loyalty, demanded obedience, and demanded respect. For Perez, this act was more than just following through on a command. It was his ticket to a higher status within the gang, a moment that cemented his reputation as someone who could be trusted with the most sensitive and dangerous missions. As his standing within Nuestra Familia grew, so did his influence. No longer a mere foot soldier, Perez began to wield a level of authority that gave him power over others. His rise was not without challenges, but Perez navigated the dangerous politics of gang life with the same determination that had defined his early years. His actions spoke louder than any words ever could, and his loyalty to the gang's mission remained unshakable. However, power within an organization as notorious as Nuestra Familia does not go unnoticed. Perez's rise to prominence caught the attention of law enforcement, who had long been working to dismantle the gang's operations. His involvement in the 2008 murder and other criminal activities became the focus of investigations that would ultimately lead to his arrest and conviction. For his crimes, Perez was sentenced to serve time in ADX Florence, a facility designed to house the most dangerous and unmanageable inmates in the country. ADX Florence is a place unlike any other, a fortress where even the strongest minds and spirits can be broken. For most, The isolation and restrictions of this facility would signal the end of their influence, but Perez proved to be an exception. Even behind walls meant to silence, he has managed to maintain his connection to Nuestra Familia through covert communication methods and unwavering loyalty from those who still follow his lead. Perez continues to exert influence, reminding everyone that his reach is not easily severed. From a mid-level member tasked with carrying out orders to a powerful figure whose name commands respect within the gang's hierarchy, his rise is marked by ambition, loyalty, and a relentless drive to prove himself. His actions earned him both fear and admiration, ensuring that his legacy within Nuestra Familia remains intact. Yet, for all his dedication and willingness to follow orders, Perez's role was one of obedience. The next figure in our story took a far different approach. While Perez thrived within the structure of Nuestra Familia, our next individual created his own path. A path marked by unrestrained ambition and unwavering thirst for control. His name would become synonymous with terror, leaving behind a trail of devastation in his wake. Coming up next is Gerald Rubalcaba. He was a strategist, a thinker, someone who understood that raw violence could only take you so far. Within the ranks of Nuestra Familia, his name became synonymous with planning and execution, not just in the physical sense, but in the way he orchestrated the gang's operations both inside and outside the prison system. Rubalcaba wasn't just a leader, he was a tactician, always thinking several steps ahead, ensuring that every move he made solidified the gang's dominance. From the moment Rubalcaba joined Nuestra Familia, his sharp mind and ability to assess situations set him apart. While others focused solely on asserting power through immediate action, Rubalcaba looked at the bigger picture. He recognized the importance of coordination, timing, and ensuring that every act of violence served a purpose. It wasn't enough to intimidate rivals or eliminate threats. Each move had to send a message, to reinforce the idea that Nuestra Familia was untouchable. Rubalcaba's rise through the ranks was marked by a series of calculated decisions that showed his ability to balance diplomacy with ruthless enforcement. He forged alliances where they benefited the gang, but he was just as quick to sever those ties when they no longer served his interests. He understood the delicate balance of power within the criminal underworld, and he played the game better than most. But for all his strategic brilliance, there was one moment that truly defined Rubalcaba's legacy. In 2012, a rival gang member crossed a line that Rubalcaba could not ignore. The specifics of the betrayal had become part of prison law, whispered in hushed tones by those who know better than to speak too loudly. What is clear is that Rubalcaba responded with a level of precision and brutality that sent shockwaves through the system. He ordered a massacre. Not just a hit, not just an attack, but a deliberate and devastating act of violence meant to make an example of anyone who dared to challenge Nuestra Familia. The plan was executed flawlessly. The target was eliminated, but it wasn't just about the individual. The aftermath was designed to leave no doubt about who was in control. The message was clear. Loyalty to Nuestra Familia was absolute, and those who defied it would face the ultimate consequence. This act cemented Rubalcaba's position as one of the most feared leaders within Nuestra Familia. His ability to orchestrate such a devastating blow while maintaining a veneer of calm, calculated authority showed just how dangerous he truly was. For Rubalcaba, violence was not an act of rage. It was a tool, one he wielded with precision to achieve his objectives. However, even the most cunning leaders cannot escape the consequences of their actions forever. Rubalcaba's involvement in the 2012 massacre and other criminal activities eventually caught up with him. He was charged with racketeering and conspiracy, crimes that reflected not just his direct actions, but his role in overseeing and orchestrating the operations of Nuestra Familia. His sentencing to ADX Florence was seen as a victory for law enforcement, but for Rubalcaba, it was just another chapter in his story. Even within the confines of one of the most secure prisons in the world, Rubalcaba's influence remains. Through covert communication and the loyalty of his followers, he continues to play a role in the gang's operations. His reach, though limited, is a reminder that leaders like Rubalcaba are not easily silenced. Their impact lingers, shaping the course of Nuestra Familia's future. Gerald Rubalcaba's story is one of strategy and unrelenting control. He ruled not through brute strength alone, but through a mind that saw every conflict as a game to be won. His moves were deliberate, his actions calculated, and his legacy. The next on the list is Joseph Pinky Hernandez, who was a figure who commanded attention the moment he entered a room. Charismatic yet utterly ruthless, Hernandez had a rare ability to build connections that served his ambitions while ensuring that those connections remained firmly under his control. His rise within Nuestra Familia wasn't by chance. It was through careful planning, relentless effort, and an unshakable reputation for enforcing loyalty with an iron hand. Hernandez understood early on that power within a gang like Nuestra Familia wasn't just about violence, though he was no stranger to it. It was about influence. It was about making others see that you were the one who could protect their interests, or destroy them if they dared to step out of line. Over time, he became known as a leader who not only maintained control through fear, but also through a deep understanding of how to manipulate alliances and rivalries to his advantage. Those who underestimated him learned quickly that their mistakes came with steep consequences. But what truly set Hernandez apart was his vision. He didn't just see Nuestra Familia as an organization confined to the prison system. He saw it as an empire that could stretch its influence far beyond the prison walls. He recognized the potential of modernizing the gang's operations, and he took the steps necessary to make that vision a reality. Under his leadership, Nuestra Familia expanded its reach into drug trafficking networks, creating new streams of income that solidified the gang's dominance both inside and outside the prison system. One of the defining moments of Hernandez's career came in 2015. By then, he had already established himself as a key figure within Nuestra Familia. But his ambitions were far from satisfied. When a lucrative drug route came into play, a route that promised immense profits and greater control, Hernandez saw an opportunity. However, securing that route was not a simple matter. It meant dealing with opposition, both from rivals and even from within his own ranks. What followed was a power struggle that shook the foundations of Nuestra Familia. Hernandez acted swiftly and decisively. Those who challenged him were eliminated with brutal efficiency, sending a clear message to anyone who might question his authority. The executions were not just acts of violence, they were statements, reminders that Hernandez was not a man to be crossed. By the time the dust settled, the drug route was firmly under his control, and his standing within Nuestra Familia had reached new heights. But power, especially power gained through such ruthless means, comes with a cost. Hernandez's activities didn't go unnoticed, and law enforcement had been watching him for years. Eventually, the evidence against him became overwhelming. His arrest and subsequent life sentence were seen by many as a victory in the fight against organized crime. But for Hernandez, it was little more than a temporary setback. Even behind the bars of one of the most secure prisons in the world, he remained a force to be reckoned with. Number 2 in our ranking is James Tibbs's Morado, his name that carries weight, both inside and outside the walls of the prison system. As one of the founding members of Nuestra Familia, Morado's role in shaping the gang cannot be overstated. He was there at the beginning, when the seeds of this organization were planted in the harsh environment of California's prisons. In those early days, survival required strength, strategy, and an unwavering sense of loyalty. Morado embodied all of these qualities and more. From the start, Morado understood the necessity of unity. He recognized that to survive the brutal realities of prison life, northern Hispanic inmates needed a force to protect them, a structure to guide them, and a mission to rally behind. It was this understanding that made him a key figure in Nuestra Familia's formation. But Morado wasn't content with merely helping to establish the gang. He wanted to ensure its dominance. His ambition, combined with his willingness to do whatever was necessary, solidified his position as one of the gang's most influential leaders. Over the decades, Morado built a reputation as a man who could inspire loyalty while instilling fear. His leadership was marked by calculated violence, the kind that sent messages not just to rivals but to anyone within the gang who dared to step out of line. One of the defining moments in Morado's long and bloody career came in 1998, when he was caught swindling, at first publicly losing his family and losing a rifle in a home skirmish. By this time, Nuestra Familia had grown into a formidable force within California's prison system. But challenges to their power were ever present. Rival gangs, particularly the Mexican mafia, were constantly vying for control, and Morado knew that maintaining dominance required decisive action. In a series of coordinated hits, Morado orchestrated the elimination of key rival leaders. These weren't random acts of violence. They were carefully planned strikes designed to destabilize the opposition while reinforcing Nuestra Familia's authority. The message was clear: Nuestra Familia was not to be challenged. This operation, brutal in its precision, cemented the gang's dominance in California prisons and further solidified Morado's reputation as a leader who knew how to wield power effectively. But power on this scale comes with a price. For decades, law enforcement had been building cases against Nuestra Familia's leadership, and Morado's name was always near the top of their list. Eventually, his involvement in countless criminal activities, including the infamous 1998 hits, led to his arrest and conviction. Morado was sentenced to ADX Florence, a facility reserved for the most dangerous and high-profile inmates. Yet even within the confines of this supermax prison, his influence remains. To this day, James Morado's name commands respect and fear. Among Nuestra Familia's members, he is seen as a symbol of their history, their strength, and their ability to endure. His legacy is one of violence, strategy, and unyielding loyalty to the cause he helped create. For Morado, prison walls are not a barrier, they are merely the backdrop to a life defined by power. As formidable as Morado is, his influence is eclipsed by one man, a figure whose name is whispered with a mix of fear and reverence. Coming in at number 1 is David D.C. Cervantes, the undisputed leader of Nuestra Familia. Cervantes is the mastermind behind the gang's most ruthless strategies, a man whose control extends far beyond the walls of ADX Florence. His story is one of domination, resilience, and a legacy that remains unshaken. David C. Cervantes is not just a leader, he is the leader. The supreme figure within Nuestra Familia, Cervantes represents everything the gang has come to stand for: loyalty, power, and control. His name carries a weight that few in the criminal world can match. To his followers, he is a symbol of strength and strategy. To his enemies, he is a figure to be feared and respected. And even to law enforcement, Cervantes remains one of the most enigmatic and dangerous individuals they have ever faced. Cervantes didn't rise to this position overnight. His ascent within Nuestra Familia was the result of years of calculated decisions, unrelenting ambition, and an ability to navigate the treacherous waters of gang politics. From the beginning, it was clear that Cervantes was not like the others. He had a vision for what Nuestra Familia could become, a vision that extended far beyond the walls of the prison system. For Cervantes, the gang was not just a group of individuals bound by circumstance. It was an empire waiting to be built, a force capable of dominating everything it touched. What set Cervantes apart was his ability to lead with both fear and intellect. He understood the importance of enforcing loyalty through acts of violence when necessary, but he also recognized that true power came from planning, organization, and discipline. Under his leadership, Nuestra Familia became more than just a gang. It became a well-oiled machine, capable of operating across multiple states, coordinating drug trafficking, and maintaining influence over thousands of members. One of the most defining moments of Cervantes' reign came in 2001. By this time, he had already established himself as the undisputed leader of Nuestra Familia, but internal betrayal threatened to undermine the gang's unity. Cervantes knew that disloyalty could not be tolerated. To maintain control, he ordered what would become known as the Clean House operation. This was not just a crackdown, it was a purge. Those suspected of betrayal were dealt with swiftly and decisively. The punishments were severe, and the message was clear. Loyalty to Nuestra Familia was not optional. It was absolute. With Cervantes at the top, Nuestra Familia has proven that its roots run deep, its power is enduring, and its story is far from over. The men on this list are a testament to the lengths people will go to gain power, to hold on to it, and to enforce their will upon the world around them. And David Cervantes stands above them all, the ultimate figure in a legacy built on loyalty, fear, and unrelenting control. The story of Nuestra Familia is one of power, control, and the unyielding grip of loyalty. These 5 men represent the very essence of what the gang has become, a force that transcends the barriers of prison walls, one that continues to thrive despite the most extreme measures taken to contain it. We began with Daniel Perez, a man who rose through the ranks by demonstrating unwavering loyalty and ruthless precision. His actions, including his role in a pivotal prison murder, earned him a reputation as a reliable enforcer who would stop at nothing to carry out the gang's will. Next was Gerald Rubalcaba, the strategist. Rubalcaba wasn't just about violence, he was about planning. His ability to orchestrate operations with a calculated mind and unrelenting authority made him one of the most dangerous leaders within Nuestra Familia. The 2012 massacre he ordered wasn't just an act of brutality, it was a message, a chilling reminder of the gang's dominance. These men may be confined to some of the most secure facilities in the world, but their influence stretches far beyond the physical walls that surround them. Their stories remind us of the lengths people will go to in pursuit of power, the sacrifices they'll make, and the fear they'll wield to maintain control. Now it's your turn. Which of these stories shocked you the most? Exoposed death. Was it the chilling precision of Daniel Perez, the strategic brilliance of Gerald Rubalcaba, the dangerous charisma of Joseph Hernandez, the foundational power of James Morado, or the unrelenting control of David Cervantes? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear from you. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of Nuestra Familia and the men who shaped its legacy, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you'll never miss another story that uncovers the darkest corners of true crime. And if you found this video compelling, be sure to share it with others who might be just as fascinated by the stories behind. Thank you for joining us on this journey. The stories of these men serve as a reminder of the power of fear, loyalty, and ambition. And as always, we'll be here to bring you the stories that demand to be told.